Okay, well, I think maybe we'll just get started, and then if anyone misses the beginning, this is going to be recorded, so I'll
Great.
send you all the recording after to rewatch it if you want, or send it to your friends. But thank you so much for coming. I'm so excited, and thanks for listening to my first single. I'm really
Yes.
glad to see that people have been enjoying it. It's been a really long process to finally put some music out, and yeah, I just wanted to have this session to show you a little bit of the behind the scenes of the making of the song, because I've learned so much in the process, and so I just wanted to share that with more people. So my hope for this session is to kind of like demystify the process of creating a song from scratch. And I know like everyone in here is going to have various levels of experience with making music, whether that's a lot or whether that's none. So I'm just going to try to break it down as much as possible so that no prior knowledge is necessary. And if you have questions, definitely open for that as well. And also, I haven't even been doing this that long. Like, I started with music production, I think like 2.5 years ago. So I don't consider myself like an expert or anything. I'm still learning with like everything that I do. And yeah, I'm just excited to have you guys along on the journey.
Glad to be here.
Good. Yeah, it's
Thanks.
part of the journey.
Um, so yeah, like I said, it's going to be a pretty casual session. I mean, there's not that many of us, so definitely open to questions throughout. If you can keep yourselves on mute mostly, I think I'm able to actually do that for you. But if you have a question, I think there's like a hand raising function if you want to do that, and then we can chat. Or I'm also going to have the typing chat open so that I can see that if you want to type a question at any point. But yeah, we'll just jump into it. So basically the process of this song was kind of different to like any other music that I worked on, in that there was not a band, that I didn't go into a studio, there weren't any engineers, and actually not even that many like real instruments, and you'll see what I mean when we go into it. But there were two other people involved in the process, and that was Austin Prince and Carolina Gutowska. And Austin Prince was my co-producer, and then Carolina played the violin parts that me and Austin arranged. And so in the session, we're going to go into the details of how the song came together and kind of like what everybody contributed to it. So I am going to actually share my screen with you guys, and we're really going to get into the nitty-gritty details. I'll show you like the project file and everything, and I'm even going to show you some videos of like how the whole process got started with this song. So let me know if you can see what's going on here. Yeah, thumbs ups. Cool. Hopefully the sound works. But yeah, just a brief overview for anyone who doesn't know. This program that you're looking at is called Logic Pro, and it's a music production software. And I'll go more into it later, but basically like it's organized vertically by instruments or like audio recordings, which I'll probably refer to as tracks. And so you can see right now that they're in groups of like vocals and guitar and all of that. Again, gonna explain that a little bit more later, because first we're actually just gonna start by talking about like the songwriting process. So basically, Man on My Mind started as a poem, and I actually put in a little, can you guys see that on the right side? There's like a image. That's a picture of my journal. So that's kind of, I think that was actually the second draft. The first draft I found today, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to share that. But you're getting the second draft. So yeah, it started as this little poem that I wrote in the summer of 2021. So nearly 2 years ago now. And yeah, back in summer 2021, there wasn't much to do except go on a lot of long walks and fantasize about non-existent crushes. So that's kind of how this poem started. I think I wrote it like while I was on a walk or afterwards or something boring like that. And then a little while after I wrote that poem, I was sitting in my room on another lonely summer night in July 2021. And I was actually playing the song Cactus Tree by Joni Mitchell, if anyone knows that. It's a really good song. It's one of my favorite covers to play. But something special about that song is that Joni Mitchell often like tunes her guitars in unconventional ways. And so I had my guitar tuned in that way. And then I ended up just like playing around with that guitar tuning and finding new chords. And so I ended up finding these chords that I used for this song, and I just really liked them. And then I flipped open my journal and saw that poem, and I was like, oh, let's try putting a melody to this. So that's kind of how it originally got started. And I actually have a little video clip from that night that I'll share with you guys. I might not play the whole thing, but this is, can you see the pop-up window? Okay, and then let me know if you can hear. No. No? Okay. We're going to troubleshoot here. Let's see. Settings. Okay. We got this, guys. It's weird. Here we go. Bear with me. There's something in the chat. Oh, okay, cool. I'll answer this question while we're waiting. So Heather asked, so you can put videos in Logic files, or was that separate? Yeah, you actually, it's mostly like audio production software, but you actually can drag a video file straight in there, which is really helpful for lately. This is a tangent, but lately I've been doing some like scoring for films. I'm taking a class on scoring for films, and it's really helpful. You can actually pull a video in and just like write music to that video. So yeah. Okay, let's try this again. And on my mind. Oh, yeah, we got thumbs ups. Okay, perfect. And then let me know if it's like you want it to be louder or anything. But here's a little snippet from that original idea. And on my mind, and it sure isn't mine, and you know what? That's all. Oh, sorry. I need to solo it. Third tries a charm. And on my mind, and it sure isn't mine, and you know what? That's all right. I'll stay up a little longer, dance around the room till I'm dizzy with the thought of you. I won't lie, I get lonely sometimes. I enjoy my own company. It's quite worthwhile to spend some time alone. Okay, so we'll stop that there. But that was, yeah, the first night I came up with the idea. It actually doesn't sound that different to the final song. I think I was playing it a lot faster there. But yeah, basically fast forward a few months and I was still thinking about this idea. But I only had the first like 30 seconds or so. And I thought it would be fun to try out this new thing all the cool kids were doing, which was TikTok duets. So I posted the video on TikTok and then I duetted myself because I'm cool like that. So I did it twice. So I arranged a 3-part harmony, which ended up being the actual idea for the song. So I'll show you guys that too. On my mind, and it sure isn't mine, and you know what? That's all right. I'll stay up a little longer, dance around the room till I'm dizzy with the thought of you. I won't lie, I get lonely sometimes.
sometimes I enjoy my own company. It's quite worthwhile to spend some time alone. But I'm unfocused. Started 7 ideas today, none of my favorite. Went for a walk. I was constantly chasing my thoughts.
Okay, so that was part 2 of the development of the idea, me sitting in my car after work, just practicing harmonies. And I posted that video obviously to TikTok and Instagram and stuff. But I didn't think that anything more would come of it. Like, I didn't think it was going to become a full song. It didn't really even like generate that much excitement on social media, to be honest. Like, not that many people seemed that excited about the idea, but I still was. So I was like, okay, well, that's fine. But then a few months after I posted it, I got a comment on the video from an old friend who I hadn't talked to in like 6 years, which was Austin Prince. And he commented on it, "Can I produce this?" And I was like, oh, okay, that's an interesting proposal. I was intrigued by it because I'm a fan of Austin's music. Like, I've been following his journey for, the 6 years that we hadn't really been in touch, but I'd been listening to his music. So I was really excited that he wanted to work with me on it. And just a little bit of background story about how I knew Austin. He actually was in a band in California in the Bay Area called Brothers Prince with his twin brother. It's a very accurate name. And at the time I had started working for an organization called So Far Sounds, who I still work for. And they put on these like small intimate concerts. And so his band was playing at one of them, and I was actually the MC. So I was like announcing the show. And I just really liked their set. They had like really beautiful 3-part harmony, actually, was like what caught my attention from it. And then later on, like a few months later, I somehow wrangled my way into singing with them at a show, like a really big show that they had, which was crazy. And I'm really grateful to Austin for that opportunity because I hadn't really sang on a big stage before. And let me tell you, I actually wasn't that great. I like went back and looked at videos recently and I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad that he took a chance on me. But I think I've improved since then, and I'm glad that he still wants to work with me. So anyway, saw that comment on the Instagram post and I was really excited. I had also never worked with another producer on one of my songs. Like, I've kind of just been figuring everything out on my own so far. So I thought that would be a fun challenge. And then after we decided to work on it together, the flame was kind of reignited for me to work on the song more because I still only had that 30-second idea. And just for context, this was now in September of 2021. So it was like, I don't know, 4 months before I first thought of the idea. And that month was also coincided with my first ever trip to the UK, which is obviously where I live now. But it was a really exciting time. I was on a solo road trip of the UK, and I was touring this university in Bath, England, called Bath Spa University. I promise this story has a point. But there was a really beautiful campus at Bath Spa University, like a lake and trees and ducks, and it just felt like very serene. And I got really inspired being there just in that scenery. And luckily I had my friend George's acoustic guitar in my rental car. And so after I did the tour, I went and grabbed the guitar and I sat by the lake and I sat there for hours just playing and playing, and then ended up, oh, we have a newcomer, ended up coming up with the chord progression for the second half of Man on My Mind at that lake. And I don't have a video of that like process, but I do have a short like clip just to show you guys what it looked like because it was so nice. So yeah, if you can see that, I think I was playing something else at the time. But yeah, that just shows you kind of what it looked like to set the scene of the songwriting session. Okay, so that's basically how like the songwriting part came together, and then we can move on to the production part, but I wanted to ask if anyone had any questions before we move on to that. I'll give it a few
And
seconds.
just kind of
Yeah. What's up, Heather?
interested in the collaboration part.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know like especially when you're like making a lot of those creative choices for yourself and then you add someone else to that, like what that experience is like.
Yeah, I mean, I think that might be answered a little bit as we talk about the production, because I'll tell you like what Austin contributed and how we like passed back and forth the song. So yeah, that's a good question, but let me know if I don't answer it and then we can come back to it. Yeah, Cassandra. Is it Cassandra or Cassandra?
It's both. I know it's like a Carolyn, but I answer to both. So I really don't have a preference. But it's wonderful to see your background and how you're coming up with this. Were you working on other songs during this time, or some songs even for me, like I tend to focus sometimes on it. But were you working on other projects in tandem, or did you feel like this was really something you were funneling your creative energy towards?
Definitely working on a lot at the same time. It's actually interesting because I have other songs that I'm still working on and a few that I'm finishing up now that I started earlier than this one. But this one, even though it was like over a year, somehow that it felt like quicker than the other songs. Like it is one of my quote unquote newer songs, but I was really, really excited about it and finishing it. So I just decided to put it out first. So it's not exactly chronological, but yeah, I was continuing to work on other songs throughout this whole process. Yeah. Cool. Okay. I don't think anyone else has questions, so thank you. Let's move on to talk about the production process. And I thought maybe it would be nice to just play a little bit of the final version to kind of refresh everyone's memory in case you haven't heard the song in a while, so that you know like what we're talking about when we go into detail. So I think I'm just going to play like half of the verse or something, but again, let me know how the volume is. You should hear it starting now.
I've been an artist for a long time. My other passion.
There's a man on my mind, and he sure isn't mine, and you know what? That's alright. I'll stay up a little longer, dance around the room till I...
Oh. Well, I had it on a loop, so it started over, but that's okay. We'll just stop with that then for now. Okay, so I sort of think of this song as, oh, I forgot another step. So in the spirit of showing you guys the evolution of the song, this kind of goes back to Heather's question in terms of the collaboration with Austin. So I did, before talking about the final version, I did want to show you guys like what happened in the intermediate steps, like between the songwriting and coming up with this final version, because there were obviously other versions. So I will show you basically after Austin and I decided to work on the song together, I sent him just the bass idea, like this is my acoustic guitar and then these are my vocal harmonies, and I just sent that all to him to see what his ideas were, because I actually didn't really have ideas. Like I said, I wasn't planning on this being a full song. I'm glad it ended up being one, but I didn't have like a vision for it yet. And so I sent just the guitar and vocals to Austin, and then he literally went to town. Like he sent me something back like 24 hours later that I was really excited about. So I have that file in here to show you guys. The vocals are a bit rogue, but this is part of the process. So this is what he sent me back after like a day.
There's a man on my mind, and he sure isn't mine, and you know what? That's alright. I'll stay up a little longer, dance around the room till I'm dizzy with the thought of you. I won't lie, I get lonely sometimes. I enjoy my own company, it's quite worthwhile.
I think that's enough to get the idea of it. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the ideas are already there, but it does sound really different to the final version. I feel like I'm kind of like whisper singing in a way. And it doesn't quite have as much energy as we ended up creating in the final version. But yeah, a lot of really cool ideas that Austin just came up with like so quickly. So it really made me excited to hear that. And then yeah, so one sec. Okay. There was a second version. Let me see if this is interesting to play in the intermediate steps.
On my mind, and he sure isn't mine, and you know what? That's alright.
Maybe not worth playing. But yeah, that's just to say there were a lot of versions. And now I think we'll just go for it and talk about what went into the final version. So to me, the song just has like 4 distinct parts. It's not really a traditional song structure in the sense that it doesn't have like a repeating chorus or anything. It has an intro, what I call a verse, a chorus, and an outro. And so those are the 4 parts. So what I did for this session is I took notes on each one that I'll have you guys have access to on the side of the screen. So I just have the 4 parts of the song, and I kind of just took notes on like what instruments and what elements I thought were important in each part. And throughout this session, I'll just kind of mention each one, and I can show you the breakdown of it all. So in this software, for those of you who haven't used this before, you're able to like mute or solo certain elements. So like we could listen to the guitar by itself, we could listen to the vocals by itself. So that's what we're gonna do, is just listen to separate elements, and I can show you how they were created. And yeah, again, let me know if you have questions. I see a question in the chat that is going to be answered, so don't worry, Nancy. Cool. Okay, I'm just referring to my own separate notes. So the backbone of this song is definitely, as I said before, the nylon string acoustic guitar and my vocals, which includes like the 3-part harmony that's going on. So that's obviously what started the whole thing. And we're just going to talk about how I built up the introduction first, and then leave an opportunity for questions, and then move on to the verse and so on. So the intro is pretty simple. I mean, it's got a lot of little things going on. So obviously it's here, I'll play it again. So it has that nylon string guitar idea. And actually I can just mute it and take out the guitar. You can hear what else is going on in the background. And a lot of those sounds are just like really weird sounds. Obviously, they don't sound like normal instruments. So here, I didn't explain this before about this software, but you can group things basically in folders. So that's how things are organized right now. For example, yeah, this folder called extras actually has a lot more stuff in it. Try not to get too overwhelmed. There's a lot, there's literally so much. But as you can see, like where the colors are is where the sound actually is. So there's a lot of blank space here where like one sound will only come in for a few seconds and then it won't be in the rest of the song. So that's what's going on in this extras tab. And by extras, I mean like non-traditional instruments, essentially. There's a lot of like synthesizers and yeah, I'll show you what else there is. Audio samples as well. So the extras were really popping in the intro because I used a few synthesizers that are actually built into this program. So Logic Pro has like synthesizer instruments that you can just play virtually, if that makes sense. And I use that for a lot of these tracks are just, yeah, from Logic Pro. And then some of them are also from, there's this company called Spitfire Audio that is based in London, and they make virtual instruments, they're called, where they're basically like they take audio sample, they record audio samples of actual instruments, and then they put it in a software so that producers can act like they're playing the instrument just from those audio samples. So for instance, this sound, I don't know if it's gonna solo. This sound, which yeah, sounds really synthy. Don't even know what it is, but it's from one of those software instruments. So that was a big component of the introduction. And then another big component of the introduction, which Nancy asked about, was the voice memo. And a lot of people have asked about the voice that's featured in the introduction to the song. And it's very special. I've kept it sort of mysterious to everyone else, but I'll tell you guys the background story. So basically it's my mom's voice, and Nancy is my aunt, so her sister. And my mom was a painter and a singer, and she passed away when I was 19. And I really wanted her to be a part of my first release in some way. So I wanted to see if I could include her voice somewhere. So I searched for a long time actually, to find something that would make sense and would feel good to include in this song. And it's actually kind of strange. I didn't really have anything recorded that I thought felt good. So I found this video on YouTube that one of her friends had posted. She had made a video for my mom, and it was an interview that my mom, oh, it wasn't like an official interview, but somebody was asking her questions at an art showcase that she had because she was a painter. And I took a little soundbite of her saying, "I've been an artist for a long time." And she said, "It's my passion." Or I think she said, "It's my other passion," because she had other passions besides that. But I just really liked that. And I felt like it resonated with me as well, because I think I've been an artist for a long time too, but this feels like my debut as an actual like self-releasing musician. Yeah, so it just resonated with me, and I wanted to honor my mom by having her on this song in some way. And I did. It was hard to include the vocal sample, was like obviously not recorded very well, so it's not super clear, but I also kind of liked that aspect of it. But I can solo that if you guys want to hear how it sounded.
I've been an artist for a long time. My other passion.
Yeah, So there's like a ton of delay and stuff on it. There's actually music in the background of the video that I couldn't remove. So yeah, it's just a bit obscured. But that is the story for that. And another fun little fact about that's sort of related to that is that throughout this process, I wasn't sure what I was going to call this song. And I had Man on My Mind as just an original idea because it was the first line of the song and I thought it made sense. But as Austin and I were sending the song back and forth for months and months, we were like abbreviating it as MOMM, which you can probably see a lot in this project. Like a lot of the files are called MOMM. And at first I didn't really like that. I was like, oh, it's abbreviated mom. Like that's kind of weird. And so he and I talked about it and we're like, yeah, we should probably switch the title of the song. And so I came up with a few alternative titles. And my favorite one was Dizzy, because there's that line like, dizzy with the thought of you. So I was almost going to call it Dizzy. And then adding my mom's voice note came like way later in the process. And once I added that, it kind of all came together where I was like, you know what, maybe it's not weird if the song is mom. Like no one's even going to call it that, but I just felt funny about it being the abbreviation. But once like my mom was a part of the song, it felt like it made more sense, if that makes sense. So then I went back to Man on My Mind and was like, all right, let's go with that. And I feel like the song is not even about a man at all. So yes, I see people typing in the chat. Thanks. Okay, cool. Well, I think we'll move on from the intro and to the verse, unless someone has anything specific about the intro you want to know. Give it a few seconds. Seems like that's no. Okay, cool. So we can move on. Sorry, I have so many things open. I'm trying to get back to my notes. Okay, cool. So the verse in this song, I feel like, is when the sonic landscape is like fully developed. So the bass comes in. I'm gonna close this vocal folder. So the bass comes in, as well as strings, electric guitars, and some other fun goodies that I'll show you. And first I want to talk about the bass real quick. So the bass is not actually a real bass. Pablo is shaking his head because he's a bassist. Yeah, so it's actually Austin played it on his electric guitar and he just pitched it down. And throughout the process, like as we progressed with the song, Austin kept saying like, oh, when are we gonna re-record the bass? Like we should get a bassist to play on this. And eventually I was just like, you know what? I really like the sound of what you gave me. So I think we should just use that. And so that was a very intentional, I guess, artistic decision to be like, I don't really care what actually made the sound. It's fine. It's still a guitar. I think it sounds really good. And I don't think most people would even know. I can solo it if you guys want to hear it by itself real quick. Like it sounds like a bass. It's very boomy as well. I mixed this song on my own for anyone who didn't know that. I'm not going to go into the details of mixing at all in this session. Mixing basically is the process after producing to make the song sound like a finished product. Anyway, so that's the story with the bass. Another idea that Austin added himself in the very first demo he sent me that I showed you guys was a bunch of electric guitar, which I thought was really interesting because for a song like this, which felt really like folky, obviously was Joni Mitchell inspired. To me, like I wouldn't initially think that electric guitar would be something that we would need to add. But it seemed very like a mark of kind of Austin style. And if you guys check out his music, you might be able to understand that. But he sent me all these kind of weird, like all those little hits that I just thought were really unique. I don't think I would have thought of doing that. So that was one of the benefits of collaboration in this aspect, was that I thought that was really cool, but I don't think I would have thought of it. And I ended up adding some guitar myself as well. So I think there's some like electric guitar riffs. Yeah, I really like those parts that just kind of support the rest of the song. Yeah, there's actually, I will show you towards the end of the verse, there's some guitar riffs that didn't quite make the cut, but I really like them. So I kept them in here just to show you guys. And I might end up putting them in a future song. They just didn't seem to fit this song, but at this point in the song, I'll play the whole thing.
Chasing my thoughts.
I think something was muted there, but whatever. So that's the part right before the chorus, and we wanted to kind of do a build up into the chorus. And originally we had some like crazy string thing that was like do 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 do, like this ascending string thing. But I thought that was too much. So I tried putting in these guitars instead. So that was also like a little ascending thing. But yeah, in the end, I felt like it was maybe a little bit outside the sound of this song. It sounded a little too like indie surf rock, but maybe I'll make another song with it someday. And yes, another sort of random addition to the verse was in the extras tab, I think. I ended up adding Mellotron. So for those of you who don't know, I've never actually played a real mellotron. This is a software instrument again, but it's kind of like a old electronic. It's like a keyboard basically, but it sounds like it has a lot of wind in it as well. And it was really common in Beatles songs, like "Strawberry Fields Forever" is like a classic mellotron at the beginning. But yeah, I thought the reasoning for it was I thought that the song was sounding a little bit thin, if that makes sense. Like it needed some more oomph and meatiness. So I added this sound. Which sounds kind of intense on its own. Like I don't think you would even really pick up on it in the full context. Like this is that part.
Man on my mind, and he sure isn't mine.
So it does kind of just fit in there. But yeah, that was a fun thing that I added. And then obviously the lead vocal was 3-part harmony for this verse. It was a little bit tricky to manage because I was very specific about the fact that I wanted the 3-part harmony to feel like they were all lead vocals, not like there's one lead vocal and then backing vocals, which is a bit tricky to do in a recorded piece of music because things tend to like get in the way of each other and get on top of each other. So I had to be pretty specific about how I arranged the sound together. So what I did is, this is a very common thing in music production, but I panned the 2 extra vocals to the left and right. So when you're listening, for example, on headphones, like you're going to hear the lower harmony a little bit more in your left ear and the higher harmony a little bit more in your right ear. And that just creates more space with the harmonies all together so that it doesn't feel like it's all overwhelming at once and like hurting your ears. So these are the verse vocals by themselves.
In mine, and you know what? That's alright. I'll stay up a little longer dance around the room.
That's enough. And then I think I'll just say one more thing about the verse before we move on to the chorus, which is my favorite moment. Can anyone guess what that is? Oh, I'm not even checking the chat. I don't know if anyone said anything. I totally lost track of the chat. It's completely gone, you guys. I hope you're not talking to me. Oh, there it is. There it is. Nylon guitars muted. Thank you, Pablo. I will unmute that. Okay, so my favorite part of the song, yes, is the line where I sing oh, it's quite worthwhile to spend, oh, I'm singing the high harmony, spend some time alone. That was such a bad rendition. It's here.
It's quite worthwhile to spend some time alone. But I'm on.
So I just wanted to show you guys what's going on in that part because it's kind of complicated, surprisingly. I basically wanted to create like a moment of chaos and like a cloud of sound during that part. And so what I did was, one thing I did was added these weird piano things, which don't sound like a piano. And that was also a software instrument from Spitfire Audio that I put a bunch of effects on, like delays, and you may have picked up on the fact that it's like going from your left to your right as well. It's like panning around. So that adds to the confusion of the moment. And then there's also some other really fun things going on in this extras folder, which is these things I called Flicky. Don't know what they are. They are audio samples that I found online of this sound. And then there's two of them here. Just random little moments that happen to like create interest in your ears. Another thing is there's actually a train. So this is a audio sample of a train. Which, yeah, you would never have known that probably in the context of the song. But there's a train which I put on the left side panned. And so to balance that, I added this other synth on the right side. Yeah, so that's all happening like underneath the surface of that moment. And I think it worked well because that's like one of my favorite lyrics in the song. And so I kind of had this whole like emphasis going on underneath it. And then when all that chaos ends, it's kind of like a breath of fresh air. So yeah, I think time is going very quickly. So perhaps it's time to move on to the chorus. And with that, if anyone else has questions about the verse, feel free to put them in the chat or do a hand raise. Pablo. Oh, he's typing. How did you come? Is that a typo? Come up with the train samples? Yeah. How did I come up with them? I'm not sure if you mean like the idea or how did I find it? Oh, okay, yeah. The idea. Yeah, I'm not sure. That's funny. I gave a practice run to somebody before this and they had the same question. I think I just was thinking about like what could cause like add to the tension in the sound. And so I just looked online. There's a a program called Splice, which those of you who are producers probably know about, where you can find audio samples. And so you can just type in like train, and then there will be someone has recorded a sound of a train. I guess I could have done it myself too, and then you can save that audio and put it in your song. But yeah, it was mostly just to like cause tension, and also now I can say there's a train in my song, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, Heather.
Yeah, kind of related to that. Do you ever find yourself like recording things and being like, oh, I can use this sound later? Like, do you have like a practice of that or anything?
I have, yeah. I probably should do it more. I do have some like recordings on my iPhone of like rain and I don't know, just kind of ambient things, fire, water boiling, like natural things that happen in life. But yeah, I find myself using Splice as a resource a lot actually. But yeah, that's a good question. I should think about using some of my own samples more. I think part of me feels like I don't have a field recording device, which a lot of people use for that kind of stuff. I usually just use my iPhone, and part of me is like, oh, that's not good enough, but I totally could use it. And I use my iPhone for some things in the song, which you'll see later on. So it's a totally legit recording device. But thanks for that question. Hope that kind of answers it. And now we'll move on to the chorus. So let's see, what did I note down in the chorus? So yeah, this song's interesting because there aren't any drums in up until this chorus part comes in. I was originally not going to put any drums at all, and I think it might be useful to show you guys what the chorus was looking like before that. So this was a draft that Austin had made of the chorus without drums. It sounds very different.
Even the thought of you sends me to pieces, pieces, pieces. And even the thought of
Yeah. So I actually do like that. But yeah, it's definitely more mellow, and I kind of wanted to give the chorus a little bit more energy. So one clear way to do that was to add some sort of a pulse or drums. I didn't want it to be like a full-on drum kit, so I will show you guys the drum folder, which looks like a lot, but it's really not that much. It's basically there's a kick drum that comes in on the like once every 3 beats, or every 6, I guess. Yeah. And then there is some shakers in the chorus, which I'll solo for you, that I played myself. And then there is a hi-hat from a drum kit that has a bunch of delay on it that sounds like this. So this is all the drums together. And then there's that snare that comes in every so often. Yeah, so that's the whole drum groove. Like I said, it's very simple. One fun little not secret, producer trick that a lot of people do is reversing sounds. So for example, here I have a crash, like a cymbal that is played backwards. And what that does is create a swell rather than like normally when a sound or like a note is played, it starts out loud and then it decreases in volume. But when you reverse the audio, it does the opposite. So it will sound like this. Oops. So you can see that it kind of starts quieter and then goes, and it like gets sucked in. So that's a really cool way to like add momentum, I guess, to a moment in a song. And that only happens twice, but I felt like it made a big difference just to add emphasis every so often. Cassandra asked if I recorded to a metronome. I definitely did. The first demo was not to a metronome, and we thought we were going to be able to get away with it, but it was too all over the place, and it's hard to arrange adding other instruments to a song sometimes if you don't have a tempo or a metronome, and especially adding these drums, it just made more sense to lock it into a tempo. Yeah. Okay, what else is going on in the chorus? Oh, I haven't even talked at all about the strings, so let's give the strings a quick moment. Most of the strings, like I said, were recorded by my friend Karolina. She lives in Poland, and she plays, like, her job is to play violin in a quartet, I believe. So Austin and I kind of arranged the idea for the strings before asking her to play them. So we had a software instrument that sounded like violins, or it like used violin audio samples, that we arranged what parts we wanted. And then I had Karolina record this. So this was her in the verse, which I forgot to mention. Very nice. I did end up keeping in some fake strings as well. So she didn't play all the strings because there were some that I just really liked how the software strings sounded, which were these in the chorus. It's more of like a full orchestra vibe, which I was like, I'm not gonna hire a whole orchestra. So I just kept that in. And one thing that is related to the string parts, actually, which I forgot to mention, is also the bass. Sorry to flip back and forth, but the bass for the chorus, I had a completely other idea that we almost used, and that was this. So for context, it would have sounded like this. Which I still kind of like, but it ended up sounding a little bit too busy, if that makes sense. So what we did instead was had the strings doing that boom, 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 but in different harmonies. And so they had these little plucks. Yeah, which I love that part. So it just adds some like punctuation to the chorus. And then one more thing about the chorus. Let's see if there's anything else interesting. Oh, two more things. So I'll show you guys the vocals because I did add quite a lot more harmonies in the vocals. And it might not look like it from the number of yellow lines you see here, but for example, this one that I'm clicking on right now is like a summation of other files. So if I play that by itself, it has, well, that's not a good example. Also, it sounds awful on its own. There's this one too.
Even the thought of you.
Yeah, they sound pretty weird. That's my favorite one. So yeah, it looks like one file, but that's just because I saved it as many into one file. But yeah, I really liked adding all those harmonies. So here's the vocals by themselves for that little bit.
And even the thought of you.
Yeah, so there's some weird harmony going on there. Like some of them are going like thought of you, and some of them are going thought of you. They're all like kind of crossing over each other. So that's a fun little moment. And then I think there's one more thing I wanted to talk about in the chorus, but you guys can feel free to ask about anything else because there is a lot going on. The guitar in the chorus, I ended up doing more of like a strumming thing rather than the finger picking I did in the rest of the song. So this was the main guitar. And once we got later into the stages of creating this song, I felt like I did want the chorus to have a little bit more of a pulse, even after adding the drums. And so I decided to create that with guitar. So there is an artist who I really like who does this quite frequently, but there was a specific song of his that I liked that had a nylon string guitar just like hitting on every beat. So I took inspiration from that and added this in the background. And that just adds a lot more pulse. And as you might be able to tell, they don't sound great on their own. So this is, for example, one of the parts that I just recorded with my iPhone. I was at my friend's beach house at the time and had like no recording equipment. And I just had this idea and I was like, it needs to happen. And it's going to be so far in the background of my song that I really just want that pulse. And it doesn't matter too much if it's recorded really well. So this was a case where I was like, I'm not going to be a perfectionist about it. I'm just going to use what I get on my iPhone. And for reference, if you guys are curious, I can play you a small snippet of the song that I was inspired by, which was a song called Cold by a band, an artist, Nick Hakim, who I really like. Let me see if I can find the point. So one fun thing you can do in this software is you can like obviously pull any audio file, load any audio file you want into it. So you can also pull other people's songs into it to listen to them for reference. So I have the audio file for that Nick Hakim song in here just to kind of use as inspiration. And I don't know how the level is going to be. Hopefully it's okay. Wait, this part might be better.
Cold like the sea, I'm lost in your storm. You poured it out on me with your eyes.
Yeah, I really like the sound of that, and you could probably hear the guitar hits that sounded a lot like what I did in the chorus, so that was definitely an inspiration for that. And that's mostly what I wanted to cover about the chorus. I do see a question in the chat. Oh, Heather had to go. Bye, Heather. Yeah, if you guys have to go at any point, feel free, obviously. We're almost done. Okay, so Cassandra said, how long was the production process with Austin before you officially released it? Yeah, so we started producing it in January of 2022. So a little over a year ago. The production was done, I officially done September of 2022. Yeah, because I remember sending, well, I guess it was probably before that because I was mixing it for a while, and then I sent it off to mastering in like September or October. But yeah, so I would say maybe 7 months ish. A lot of it I did on my own, like working with Austin was maybe like 4 months back and forth, but kind of sparsely. And then I finished it up on my own and I worked on it for a few months. Cool. Thanks for that question. Okay. So yeah, I'll just cover a few things about the outro. It's not very complicated. There was no vocals in the outro. The outro was kind of a random thing. It doesn't really fit in with the rest of the song. It's in a different time signature. So for those of you who know what that means, the most of the song is in 3/4, so there's 3 beats per measure, and then the outro is in 4/4. I have no specific reason for that. I just was jamming on the song, and then I felt like I wanted to play that part at the end in 4/4. I'll give you a little snippet so you know what I mean. So this is before it changes time signature. So the song could have ended here, but then I was like, you know what? Let's go with a different vibe. So it changes there. And then there's this super weird spacey thing that happens with the guitar, which I can explain. I'll stop it now, but it goes on for a little bit longer. Yeah, so pretty simple. It sounds chaotic at the end, but actually all that was the one guitar recording, which I'll show you. Unfortunately, I have it saved like with the effects, so I can't separate it out from the effect right now for you guys. But basically, I was just playing dun, 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 on the guitar, and that's the whole thing. All the craziness comes just from an effect that I added. I wasn't actually layering any more guitar on it. It's mostly just a delay effect. So because it's delaying what I'm playing, it just sounds really chaotic because it all spins out on itself. And then at the end, I got a little bit more wacky with it by changing the delay time in real time. So let me know if this is confusing. But basically, you can have an effect like adjust in real time as if I was like DJing it and having it like slow down. And so I was just adjusting this plugin in real time and having the delay time like decrease. And that's why it sounds all weird at the end, like it's a tape machine slowing down or something. Oh, thanks, Cassandra. Yeah, and then other than that guitar, like the only other stuff in the outro is these spacey vocals that I also recorded on my iPhone in my living room and then just added a bunch of reverb. That was a very late addition. I just felt like I was listening to the song and I was like, oh, I could sing something over this. So I just recorded it on my iPhone. And then there's a little bit of bongos, like for 3 seconds. Oh no, there's 2 bongo hits. That's it. It's so specific. So specific. There's 2 hits of a bongo and then a little bit of the shaker as well. Just to add like a slight groove for 5 seconds and then it ends again. That's so funny. I didn't realize I cut it down to only 2 bongos. Yes, so I think that about covers it. Sorry if it got chaotic there at the end. Literally, it does in the song and in this session. But I hope that gives you guys a sense of how this song was made. Okay, so we have some questions. Pablo said, did you ever consider adding a second verse or adding vocals to the outro? I never considered adding more vocals to the outro. I think maybe for a second I thought about adding a second verse, but it just felt right in this way. I kind of like that it just has these distinct sections that never repeat each other. Yeah. One of my friends really wants me to turn the outro into a full song. So maybe I'll do that. Stay tuned. Thanks, Brooke. Okay. Well, Yeah, thank you all so much for coming. I do actually have another fun special surprise. But I hope that we have a hand raise. We have a hand raise.
We have
Cassandra.
hand raised. Yeah, and I was curious about the when you're communicating and working with Austin, if you worked on one file or did you pass the file back and forth? Was it a cloud feature that Logic
Yeah.
offers? But what was that process like so that you were working within the same master file?
That's a really good question. I think we did it a few different ways, and there's not like a really good streamlined way to do that with Logic. I think there was a point where we sent the entire project to each other, but it can get messy if you don't have all the files on your computer and it's a big file. So I think what we mostly did was just send stems, which for those of you who don't know, that means like we just sent the separate audio files one by one, but I mean, we would send them like in a folder on Dropbox. So like each of these would be by themselves. And then if anybody added something, you would just send them in a folder. And then I mean, I guess at the beginning, he had a more complete version of the song just because he started some of the ideas. But then as we went on, I definitely had the like master project. So it would mostly be him sending me stuff and then me like loading it into my project and then deciding what I wanted to keep and what I didn't. But yeah, it can be tedious when you're working with so many files and like trying to keep track of them all for sure. Any other questions? No. Yeah, anyway, so thank you all for coming. I really hope that you've gotten something out of this and that I could like inspire you in some way. And I wanted to say I'm obviously offering this as a free workshop, so don't feel obliged, but I am gonna leave a little like tip jar link to my PayPal and Venmo just in case you feel like this was worth something and you want to contribute. Because just to be like completely honest, making music and releasing it like is expensive and it's turned out to be like more so than I even thought. So part of the reason like there's time and deliberation in between releases is also due to like the budgeting and planning of that. So yeah, I mean, in the spirit of full transparency, I thought I might as well even just tell you, like, to give context, I spent like $700 on making this song, which is considered low in general. Like I didn't have studio costs for this song. For other songs I did, so I have spent more on those. But yeah, like before I started producing music and I didn't even realize that all this stuff costs money. And that's not including the like 100 hours I put into making it too. So that's just to say, like, if you feel like you want to help me continue to make more music and you want to hear more releases, then I would definitely appreciate some some help. So
Got
I
it.
will leave that there. But yeah, I mean, no pressure as well. And yeah, I couldn't do this without you guys and without your support. So I'm just like happy that people wanted to come and hear how the song was made. And I will again like send you this recording in case you want to rewatch it or show friends. And then feel free to let me know what you thought of the session and how I did. And if you want to hear, like, if you want to have more of these sessions for other songs I release, because this was really fun. Somebody has a raised hand. Nancy, do you know how to?
Sorry.
Okay, hi.
I'm not that well versed on Venmo or PayPal. What if
Okay.
you don't have Venmo? You don't use Venmo or PayPal?
Good question.
Is
I
there anyone
will.
otherwise?
Yeah, I can
Or to like
contact you separately. I don't
we'll talk
I don't
separately.
have a backup plan. But maybe for the future I will.
Well, PayPal, maybe I could do PayPal. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a link in the chat,
There's a
but
link, I see that. Thank
I can help you if you want afterwards.
Mhm.
Thank you though. And then, yeah, the last fun surprise before we say goodbye is I would love to show you a preview of my next release if that's something you're interested in. I see some nods. So I actually just loaded like a little snippet into this session. Some of you may have heard this already, but some of you haven't. So yeah, this next song is pretty much done. It's not mastered yet, which is the final step in making music. And I have a few other things I need to do before releasing it, but it's mostly done. So I thought it would be fun to just show you what's coming up. So this song is called Cheek to Cheek, and hopefully it will be out in the next few months. Oh, wait. Here we go.
I see you from across the room, doing things in my mind we ain't supposed to do. You see me, got me in the mood. Get you in the light blue eyes and your faded tattoos. But when the time comes, I'd rather be on my own. Guess I changed my mind. Try again another time. Is there something wrong with me? We shouldn't be sleeping cheek to cheek. Guess I'm not that fond of intimacy.
Right. That's like half of my next release. So thanks. Thanks for listening. I hope you're getting excited about it as I am. Yeah. Oh, this has been so fun. Any final thoughts before we say bye? Oh my God, Brooke and Robert, I didn't even see that you guys were together.
It's really good. Really
Maybe-
good.
Maybe we should take like a group photo if people are okay with that. I guess this is already going to be recorded, but do I have consent to take a screenshot?